Hello, salut, hola, ni hao, salve, konnichiwa, guten tag. I could go on forever, but my accent would just keep getting worse. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in again. Or if it's your first time joining the scene, welcome. Here on the scene, that's CeeNN, the Christine Nguyen Network. I always try and highlight interesting people who are doing big things in their life. People who are making a difference, being the best at what they do, and paying it forward in some passion. I honestly cannot tell you all how excited I am to welcome to my show today the very well respected, wildly popular, critically acclaimed director, producer, and screenwriter of more than 150 films in genres from horror, science fiction, and action adventure to crime dramas and holiday films. He is also my dear friend, the ubiquitous, the prolific Fred Olen Ray. Fred, how are
Wow.
you?
What an introduction.
It's all true, too. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. And amid all the craziness, somehow or another, I've managed to get this far and no one's gotten hurt.
No
So
one's
far.
gotten hurt, and honestly, I think you're coming out on top because first and foremost, congratulations on your recent Emmy win for Best Digital Daytime Drama for your show The Bay, on which you're a producer. What was it like this year? I mean, it was so different. Did you dress up at home and stand by in a Zoom call? How did that work?
Well, I'd only been home for a day from Utah.
Oh, wow.
And, last year we were nominated. And so, tuxedo, limousine, down to the place we went, drinks, dinner, sat there and listened to Kelly Pickler tell us that we hadn't won.
Ugh.
And so we all went away, kind of sad. And, you get a nice plaque for the wall, though, so there's something. So this year, of course, we're not allowed to go. And I'm over at Chris's house with a couple of other people, having some cauliflower crust pizza. And
Keeping it healthy.
We're watching it on a Zoom application. And of course, we win. No tuxedo, no getting to go down there
Oh,
on stage. We find out about it on TV, but
but
you know what? A
but
win is a win.
But I mean, I didn't watch it because I'm not up for one, so I'm like, yeah. But do, do they do like a quick cut to you at home and you're all like rejoicing, or how does it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yeah.
so that's pretty cool then. But I bet the astonishment. I mean, were you surprised, or did you feel like it was your time?
I was fully prepared to lose again. I know I was. After last year, I realized, that the competition is just increasing and increasing. And this year, because so many soap operas are being cut by the networks, some of them are finding their way to Amazon and YouTube and stuff. And so all of a sudden, we're competing with like Days of Our Lives in General Hospital. And I said, well, there's no chance, that we're gonna beat these, 50, 60-year-old soap operas, but we did.
But
We
wasn't
did, and
that
I'm
just so
I'm
great though?
thrilled. I am thrilled.
That's amazing. So
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about the Bay for those who haven't seen it before.
it's a drama, a continuous drama about the lives of people who live on the bay. Christos Andrews is basically sort of the year in year out male lead, but they do have a lot of great guest stars. A lot of people who like Neil Patrick Harris or people like that who show up, and it's an amazing little show. It's extremely slickly done, and but like I said, the competition is stiff. It's
But it's
stiff out there.
amazing. It must make it all the more sweeter because you guys have been on for a while now. And the fact that all these other big shows came in, but you still beat them out, that's a testament.
Well, you know what? It's really down to Gregory Martin. This is his brain child, and he does all the heavy lifting. All the rest of us just are little satellites who pitch in and do our parts where we can help out. But the real force behind this is Gregory Martin, and there wouldn't be any Bay without him.
You're so humble. I love it. So this is a question we always ask when someone like gets a huge award. Where is that Emmy statue sitting right now?
The problem here. First of all, you have to engrave your name on it, so it takes about a month to get the final statuette
Ah, okay.
because they have to put your name on it and all that stuff. But I have a table that's
So
designated
how did you
for
get that
awards.
picture then? Well, you were holding the Emmy, so I'm like,
That was Chris's. That was
oh,
Chris's from 2 years ago.
This is the behind the scenes, folks.
Yeah, I said, well, I thought, who's going to want to see a picture of you with an Emmy 2 months after we won?
Totally.
That's pointless. So
Totally.
so we just said, hey, give me that one, Chris. At least I'll have a photo to celebrate with. So, but my awards table is full. I actually, you're going to need a bigger boat. I need a bigger table.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I
that's a
don't
problem.
actually have room. I don't have room for it on my table. I have to buy a larger table. But you know what? I'll do that gladly.
Well, geez, problems that you have.
Well,
So,
I'm also in the running for a primetime Emmy
oh, tell us about
as
that.
director of the movie Baking Christmas that I did for the Oprah Winfrey Network.
Nice.
So I don't think I have any chance at all at a primetime Emmy, but a nomination there would be nice. That would that would actually be career. That would be career altering. I think. Not that I should be looking for a career at my age.
We'll get to that. I've got questions that go straight to that point right there.
Yeah, yeah.
So you said that I spoke to you, what was it, like probably like a week ago now or maybe earlier
Uh-huh.
this week, and I had asked you if you'd come on the show, and you're like, well, I'm actually in Utah right now. So you just got back to LA
Uh-huh.
yesterday? Was it yesterday?
No, it was last Thursday.
Oh, well, no, last Thursday. Was it
So I've
last?
been home about 4 days,
Okay,
5
last
days.
Thursday, because I said, I called you or I texted you, and you're like, well,
Right.
I'm just coming home a couple days later. And I texted you, and you're like, you know what? I just actually got home.
Yeah.
Basically, like, give me some
that
room
would
to
have been
breathe, girl.
Thursday afternoon. Yeah.
So you were in Utah. What were you doing in Utah? Was it a movie or like another
Yes.
TV?
Yeah. I was on a show. Um, a little thriller, a women's type thriller that we do so well. That's
Yes.
that's what we were doing. We were all quarantined. We all had to take these tests, and then when we got there, we took the antibody test. And once everybody passed their test, they wouldn't let you leave. We were in a lodge out in the middle of the wilderness, and you couldn't leave the property. They brought your breakfast, lunch, and dinner into like a meeting room, and everyone ate whatever came in these little boxes. And you couldn't, if you needed something from the store, they would have someone go get it and bring it. They would
Nice.
not. They would not let you off that property.
Well, in a way, that's
Um,
nice. I mean, it's almost like a reality show where they take away your phones.
yeah, and it was good because we filmed. We actually filmed where we were staying. So the movie took place in the same location we were staying in. So it was it
That's
was
maximizing everything.
well, for me it got really boring, and so I just started going to bed right after dinner every night, and there's nowhere to go, so we pushed our calls to 8 o'clock, 8 to 8. I said because it doesn't get dark till 9:30 there, and there's nowhere to go anyway. So why get up at 7 o'clock and rush?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nobody has a hot date tonight.
And depending where you're in Utah, you can't drink anyway. So, whatever.
Everybody brought their own. They brought their own. All these guys, they were all liquored up.
Oh, you got to love entertainment people, right? We know
All
how to
right.
take care of
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah. They think of everything sometimes.
Okay, so I totally fast tracked your entire career to like some of these highlight points in present day, but let's rewind. I mean, I know, I'm so excited to have you on my podcast because everyone knows of you. Like, seriously, everyone who's in the know knows of you, and everyone who's turned on a TV knows of you. But I don't think people really know who you are. So
Well, not everybody watches Most Wanted.
well, everyone who's smart watches. Like I said, everybody in the know. So, but let's start. Like, I know a lot of your backstory. We've hung out and we've talked a lot, but let's start from where you were originally and the string of events that landed you here in our, wonderful entertainment world of La La Land. Where are you from originally?
Well, I'm from West Virginia, and but I grew up mostly in Florida, and I started reading these sort of like monster magazines in the '60s, and I saw articles about kids who were using their parents' home movie cameras to make their own like little monster movies, and I thought that was great, and so I worked around to get a camera. And I started making my own little, Dracula movies and Frankenstein movies in my house when I was like 13, 14 years old. And I always thought I'd like to be a special effects makeup artist. And I actually was
Oh,
for a while. But, you're in Sarasota, Florida, your parents are the average kind, there's no reason to believe that a filmmaking career could be in your future.
But were your parents
that's unrealistic.
But were your parents supportive, or were they like constantly like taking all your toys away and just going, "Come on, Fred"?
No, they just, one time when I was still in high school, some of my mother's friends said to her, I heard them talking. She goes, "Aren't you worried about Fred?" And my mom says, "Oh, he'll grow out of it." But it never happened, and I went into the service during Vietnam right out of high school.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't, I was fortunate. I was in the winding down period, but my draft number came up, so I ran down there and enlisted in the Navy. And when I got out of there, I realized I didn't know what to do to make a living. I had never learned anything useful. And so I went back to school for broadcast engineering. Because I thought, well, if I could work in a TV station, maybe I'd be happy, and that I didn't have a film career, but it'd be something. It'd be better than some other job.
And this is still Sarasota when you came back?
No, I was in Fort Lauderdale at this point. I graduated high school in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
So I went to school, and I did get a job with PBS.
Nice.
Coming out of there, and I was a technical director, and I actually worked with Fred Rogers.
Oh, wow.
I did the 10th anniversary of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood TV
I
special.
love learning more and more about you every time we talk.
And, it was very funny. He went around and introduced himself to everybody, and he came in, and I said, "Hi, I'm Fred." And he said, "I'm Fred too." And I said, "Yeah, yes, I know." And we shook hands, and he had that kind of limp, boneless handshake. Mm-hmm. And he was a very nice guy. I liked him a lot. And I went in about television, but the first thing I did when I got there, they were using 16mm news cameras. First thing I did was, could I borrow that camera on the weekend? And they let me borrow it, and I made a movie with Buster Crabbe called The Alien Dead. I made it for $12,000 with a few investors while I was working there. And in my 5th year, I didn't get a raise or a promotion or something I wanted. And I was just ready to give up on them. And so my brother and I decided that we would quit our jobs and go to California. We'd never been west of the Mississippi. Mm. And my brother had $800 and I had $400. We actually, with only that amount of money, got in a car in Orlando, Florida, which is where the PBS station was, and we drove to California.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Well, you want to complicate. If you want to complicate
Let's
the
hear
story.
It.
Right before I was to leave, I'd given up my apartment. I was staying at my mother's house on her couch in preparation of leaving, and my estranged wife, who had been missing for 2 years with 2 of my children, calls my mom out of the blue, and she says, "You always liked Chris, didn't you?" I said, "Of course." She goes, "How would you like to have him?" I said, "I would." She said, "Meet me at the A&P grocery store in Cocoa Beach, and I'll give him to you." So I took my mom and I drove from Orlando to Cocoa Beach, and I met her in a parking lot, and she hands me a 4-year-old kid who hasn't seen me since he was 2. And she gave me a grocery bag of clothes, and she said, "Here he is. I got too many kids to deal with." I said, "What about my other son?" She said, "No, he's too little. I won't give him up." So I came away with Chris right before we were going to go to California, and I quit my job. And they hand me a 4-year-old child. I'm a single guy, right?
Right.
So my sister was blowing through town, so she said, "I'll take Chris back to North Dakota or South Dakota where they live. I'll hold him there till you get settled in California." And I went to California in late November, a few days before Thanksgiving. And then by January, March, they had shipped Chris to me, and we didn't have a car. Him and I were riding the bus.
Oh my gosh!
And you can see how his career turned out.
No, but let me tell you, you guys like life is like a story in itself, and I just feel it's a movie coming on about this.
Well, it's really Bachelor Father, because I raised Chris by myself till he was 19, and he went into the service. So it was a long many years of a single father and a little kid. So.
But
I learned a few things about patience, Christine.
Oh, I bet you have, and I bet you're still using what you've learned. So, it's crazy because speaking of Chris, I've been on so many sets with you, and a lot of times they would come on set just to like during lunchtime. I remember them coming just to say hi and to hang out. And this is like when they're still decently young, at least the younger
Right.
ones. And I remember once that you guys were talking, and I'm always like moseying around, like fly on the wall. And I remember you guys talking about wrestling. And what is your history with wrestling? Because I know that you guys have that history together, you and Chris too.
Yeah, I I wrestled Chris in his first match. I trained him. That was the only moves he did in that match were the only moves he knew. I trained him for one single match. But he went on in Puerto Rico, and did quite a bit of work, himself there.
But how does it that
Um,
you were a pro wrestler? Like, where did that come in
well,
with all of
because
this?
I was always when I was younger, I hung around. I worked out in a lot of gyms, and I did some boxing. I tore a rotator cuff in my shoulder, and boxing became extremely painful.
Hmm.
And I met a guy in the gym, and I was saying, blah 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 blah. I can hardly raise my arm, and blah blah blah. And the guy was a pro wrestler, and he goes, well, if you don't want to get out, if you don't really want to get out of the ring, he goes, why don't you train with us? There's a gym for wrestling. So I said, yeah, okay. So I went down there and had a good time, and I enjoyed it. And
Yeah, I mean, you weren't
so
taking the punches as a boxer, but I'm thinking pro wrestling, that's pretty, like, that's kind of painful too. I mean, it's very athletic.
pro wrestling hurt more, of course, hurt more than boxing. I've certainly had my concussions. I broke my leg in three places at one point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I got a compressed spinal cord, which, as you know, left my right hand partially paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I believe that was from a specific incident I remember where a guy dropped me straight on my head,
Oh, God.
and it paralyzed the half my body for about 20 minutes. It's called a stinger. But then they finally did an MRI on me years later, and they said, I didn't have any spinal fluid for 3 inches, and I had three compressed vertebrae that were cutting off parts of my spinal cord, and they thought that's why my hand was paralyzed. But they fixed it. They saved my life, sort of. But the hand never really came back, as you know.
Yeah. And that's why
But
you, like,
I
what did you,
wrestled around Alabama. I wrestled Alabama, Georgia, those areas, and then of course Los Angeles. So I did lucha shows in Anaheim
oh
and
my God,
places like
lucha
that.
shows are the best. I love going to their shows. But did you like the wrestling because you were on camera too? You know?
Well, you know what? Because there was something. It's kind of like a play. You get these knots in your stomach backstage as butterflies, and then all of a sudden, the door opens and you have to go. And I enjoyed it, but other than sort of trying to work and manipulate an audience, there was a lot of physicality.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of. I mean, I got set on fire
Oh
twice.
my
I
gosh.
mean, I put my hand in a cage of rattlesnakes. I pulled an alligator across the ring by its
Oh
mouth
my
one time.
God.
You know, I mean, not very little ordinary. I did the barbed wire ring match, where the whole thing, and then I wrestled Abdullah the Butcher. It was like
The
450
butcher.
pound black guy, and that one went down into the audience and out through the doors into the parking lot. I mean, it went out in the parking lot, then it came back.
So there were
I
no
thought
rules.
I thought it was never going to end.
So wrestling to me is like, I mean, that's like soap opera in itself, you know? People, I don't
It
have enough
is,
respect
yeah.
for wrestlers. I mean, you guys go through so much. I mean, I remember watching the movie and realizing that this is a total show. These are actors who are athletes, you know?
Yes, and the thing is that if you're doing a spot show, which is a show which doesn't have any build up, like on TV, they'll build up a rivalry for a month or so.
Right.
What I mean, you get to follow the storylines. It's like you said, a soap opera for men. But in a spot show, they're seeing you all, unless they come every week or every month or whenever you play there. Um, you have to get the whole storyline across to them in one match.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
got eight minutes of wrestling probably to do, and you got 2 minutes worth of ring introductions. But whoever the heel is, whoever the face is, you have to establish that. And
Wow.
if you want to get some heat from the audience, you got to get it right now because they haven't watched you for weeks and they don't hate you already. You've got to make them hate you right now or like you right now.
Yeah.
So, I used to do everything. And
So did you have
I,
a jazzy name to go with your persona?
you know what? I played different types of characters. My main name was Freddie Valentine,
Okay,
Fabulous
so you
Freddie.
weren't the heel. So you were.
And I did a bit where my hair was perfect, and I had a valet who with a bow tie who would spray my hair. And if you mussed my hair up, I'd stop the match.
Oh, I love it.
And go get my hair sprayed again. And then sometimes I'd spray the guy in the face, the eyes with the hairspray, and that's how I'd win.
The ladies love
Uh,
that.
uh,
I said the ladies would love that. I'd be like, I like him.
you know what? I got girls be hanging out signs and stuff for me. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't a high flyer, because I'm not limber and agile like that, but I was fearless. I mean, I was the only person who would do a rattlesnake match or an alligator death match, or a Japanese suicide match, and these were, I did an electrified fence match. I mean,
But
these
Fred,
are some
why were you
crazy.
doing this?
These are some crazy matches to be involved in.
But Fred, are you just an adrenaline junkie at this point? I mean,
I don't. I didn't mind being set on fire. I knew it would only last as long as whatever the torch was dipped in, would burn. It wasn't going to burn that long. But there are certain things after you break your leg in three places and it hangs there like a broken drinking straw.
There you go.
You every time you go to jump up and down from the ring, I mean, you favor that leg, even though they tell me with all the titanium in it that it's stronger than it was before. You're never going to forget that. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't jump in any way that I thought it might hurt that leg that had been broken so many places. But I'm not scared of snakes, and I'm not scared of alligators. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't bother me. And we would sit there in the dressing room. There's this girl, one time I was a sheik, from.
Oh my God.
I was a sheik, right? And I had a girl who was dressed as a harem girl with me, and she had a huge boa constrictor. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there, it's a Mexican show down in Anaheim. It's a lucha show. Mm-hmm. We're at one end of the dressing room. Every guy on the card was down at the other end. They would not come anywhere near. This girl's got the snake. No one would come. They wouldn't come. They were as far down the other end of the room. And I thought, get on. Look at the size of these guys.
Yeah.
That snake's got them all going. So that was the thing. So you had to knock this guy unconscious. Right?
So you're playing mind games with them. These are mind games to begin with.
I knocked the guy out, and then I grabbed the boa constrictor and I laid it on him. He had to lay there and pretend to be knocked out while this giant snake was on him. I knew he was peeing his pants.
These are some really good stories. Like, do you ever sit back and think of all the stories you have? Do you incorporate some of this stuff into the things you write? Because sometimes, like, the things you write, I'm like, okay, are these based on something it's a private joke within yourself?
There's some stuff from me in my scripts that are real life, but probably more than anything, it's relationships.
Yeah.
It's relationships, things that girls have done or scenes I found myself in with people, because I had an ex-wife recently accuse me of this being one of these movies being about her.
Oh, right.
And of course I said, of course not. What am I gonna say?
Of course not. Your eyes go to the side.
Came up to me in this one movie and they said, Fred, this is kind of autobiographical, isn't it? And I said, of course not.
Well, it's crazy to know you. I'm sure everyone does too. I mean, but everyone in this industry has a bit of an ego, and so they read themselves into things. But yeah,
no. I was in the hospital. After they cut the artery in my neck accidentally and killed me a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
And I was in the hospital for a long time. And as you know, I woke up on Christmas Eve out of a coma and found myself tied to a bed with an incubator thing down my throat, unable to talk or communicate. And I just did this movie in Utah. And of course, all of the things that happened to me in the hospitals and stuff, I built into the script.
Yeah.
Because I knew that if you were unconscious, even though they put you under, your hands could pull your nasal tube out or your IVs out. And so in a lot of instances, they tie people's hands to the bed to keep them from doing it while they're asleep, reaching up and just something bothers your nose and you just pull the tube out.
Right. So
I built all that in. And of course, someone, when they were reading the script for approval, they went, do they really do that? Anybody really time to bed? I said, trust me, take it from me.
Yeah, they totally do.
I woke up and I was tied to the bed. So I do use some real life stuff, of course.
So most of the things that you've done on set, though, it seems like you really enjoyed, your time on set. But, I've been listening to your podcast, and every now and then you tell a story of, some bad days or some um, um, talent that is a little bit hard to work with. What's the
Yes.
not? I won't even name names. You just have to go on
No.
Fred's podcast to listen to it. But can you tell us like one of the worst days you've ever had on set? I mean, it can have to do with, however, but one of the days when you're just like, if you could blink an eye, you're just like, let me just get out of this day.
Mostly it wouldn't be about an actor's behavior, because I usually get even with them. They mess
Note
with
to
me.
actors
I get
that work
even
with you.
them. No, I've threatened them before. I've threatened fairly well-known actors before, right? But about how I would shoot their close-ups, and they would never know what I was doing, and I would do this and that.
That'll shut them up.
But the worst days I have, I think, for me, is something like when the heat is unrelenting and you have to be out in the sun and there is no shade.
Yeah.
And it becomes like when we were doing that Steven Seagal movie, and where the whole sequence for a couple of days where a truck is broken down on the side of the road in Afghanistan or whatever. There was no shade. Yeah. And it was up to 114 degrees and then a blowing dust and sand. I mean, that's the kind of thing I remember that I really hate. Difficult actors, like I said, I usually get even with them one way or another.
I love the way you deal with things. You kind of take everything in stride, but with an an iron grip.
I've never really lost my temper on set. I mean, I act like I do all the time, and I always tell people, if I ever throw my script down, if I just throw it into the ground as hard as I can, I said, then I'm mad. I said, anything less than that, I mean, even throwing my script at you.
Yeah.
I've done that. Well, usually I have sides. I never carry a full script.
Yeah.
I usually have fives, which are like 6-7 pages stapled together, and I roll them up and put them on my back. So if I ever throw that roll at you, I'm just goofing off.
Yeah.
I mean, anything less than throwing the script down on the ground, it's all an act.
Because I honestly, I'm thinking about all the times we've been on set together. I don't think I've ever seen a single time that you've lost your cool or it even seems like you're upset. Because it's almost like, but the thing is, you'll say something and I think to myself, he's not happy. Kind of like, don't make a meal of this. Just an actor messing up their lines over and over again, But
we've had some pretty terrible things happen on some of our shows. And I said to people, you know what? Now's not the time to get mad. Okay, this is what it is. Yeah. What are we going to do about it? Let's fix it. And then if I have something to say about it, I'll say it when the day is over. But that's, we've had stuff where we spent a half a day shooting, and then they go to change the film cans, and the door to the dark room blows open.
Oh my God!
And you don't know. We didn't know. We didn't know if all the film had been ruined. We didn't know if it was any good. There was no way to know. And this was like a day where I had half a day to set this up, and the second half of the day was the military taking over a town during this virus, and there were helicopters and tanks.
How can you recreate
and hundreds of extras, and then all of a sudden they're like, Fred, we don't know if we got the first. So in an hour I had to try to reshoot everything I had done up till lunch, and then have the military take over a town. But the freaking out wasn't going to help anything. It's like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And that's what we did. And turned out the film was okay, but you couldn't know that because in the processing, it would take 24 hours to know. And of course, this was a one-day shoot. So.
Well, this kind of brings me to the next thing. Like I said, I'm always kind of hovering around you and listening to your stories because they're good stories. And I remember once that you're talking to, I guess, the DP, and you were talking about some other production you had done where it had gone way, way over budget. So they bring you in, to corral everything in and pretty much save the day and save the production. And then I remember at the very end of it, you said, how about this? How about they just bring me on as a director in the first place? We could have saved all of this.
Funny. I've been directing for those guys ever since. And in fact, that film was in Utah.
And so
that was the only other time I'd ever been to Salt Lake City, Utah, is the movie you're talking about.
So
I know exactly the one.
But here's the thing, because I heard, I listened to your podcast, and you have a couple of stories like this. It's almost kind of like, if we were the mob, you would be like the cleaner. Like you're the guy that comes in, it's like everything's effed up. You come in, with your bow tie and your cigar, and you're like, let me just bam, bam, bam. This is how we're gonna do it. This is what we're gonna what's gonna happen, and the day is saved. Are you what they consider a cleaner in the industry? Like, are you known as someone who can come in and fix, or the production is already over budget, but you come in and you keep it from just being a disaster?
Well, you know what? I don't get that call very often. I've taken over a couple films in my life. Mostly, I think what people look for when they're hiring me is they know I've never been over schedule and I've never been
Oh,
over budget. And
that's quite a feat, though.
I've turned in movies that were distributed by 20th Century Fox and Paramount and Warner Brothers and Lionsgate. So they already know there's a level of professionalism. And if you're way behind schedule and you're way over budget, yeah, you can send me in about 4 days. I'll turn your show around. I'll take on twice as many pages a day as the guy I'm replacing, and I'll catch you up. And they already know the work will be good because I've made, like I said, shows for all the major distribution outlets. The only place I've never had a movie come out of was Universal Pictures, and I feel disappointed. Universal horror movies are my favorite. The only big studio that's not released one of my movies is Universal.
So can I ask you this?
Something to aim for. Something to aim for, Christine.
Yeah, but can I ask you this? So I I love your podcast, by the way. We'll get to that. But was the whole like Nightmare on Elm Street? Who was that? That's not Universal, right?
That was one of the problems I had. That was New Line
New
Cinema.
Line Cinema. Okay.
Yeah. That was back in the days, man, when it was and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
I really enjoyed
what really
those
bothered me
podcasts.
there was my agents. My agents would not back me up, and I don't understand how you can have an agency that
Yeah.
doesn't look out for its client. This was a big agency. It was called APA, Agency for the Performing Arts.
Yeah.
The huge agency, and they said, listen, New Line's too important to us to go to bat for you against them. I went, oh, so they're more important than me.
But
Yeah.
the crazy thing is,
Yeah, they are.
you guys have got to listen to Fred's podcast. I can't remember which number this was, but the story that you had, what happened. I mean, you had all your ducks in line. Like you could have taken, I think, a lawsuit. You could have won this. I mean, you filled your name into the
no,
logbook.
I could have. Yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah, I know, I get it. I've been with an agency before, where when it came down to like, or what mine was different was like getting paid, and we knew we were in the right, but we were working with a bigger company, and so they just didn't want to get blackballed, or they just didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, and so I was the small fry. So they're like, well, let's let her burn, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So, but okay, so that wasn't Universal, but you know what? It's like you haven't stopped yet, so I don't know. Cross our fingers. You're going to get that primetime Emmy, and you're going to do something for Universal too. But
if I got a primetime Emmy, I would probably just retire.
So you're going to say this, and you're going to get it. You're going to get it,
there.
and then you're going to be like, I'm not ready to retire.
I know. Yeah, as soon as the phone starts ringing, you're not retired
Oh,
anymore.
heck yeah, right? Okay, so
I have a friend who used to say, he said, the phone not ringing speaks just as loudly. I've never forgotten that. He's so true.
So talking about retiring though, so it's like, you've done over 150 titles, right? Movie, like TV, film. At this point, I mean, you'd sit back and think, let's write an autobiography, or just let me just put my feet up for a second and not work so hard. But the craziest thing is that you've gone in a totally opposite direction. I mean, you're still directing and writing and producing, but you've thrown your hat in an arena that is ball busting and cutthroat. And I'm talking about stand-up comedy.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been to one of your shows, and I actually enjoyed it. And it was a sold-out house. And it was really enjoyable. So was it a dare? I mean, you do a lot of comedy already, but stand-up is a whole different beast. Why are you even trying this?
It was a combination of things. Like I said, I got out of the hospital where things were really bad, and being single, I found myself becoming a hermit. Every night was the same. I would just take a shower early, get in my pajamas, watch TV, and at a point I thought, this is maybe not good for me. I should force myself to go out.
There you
And
go.
my friend Rob Van Dam, who you may know, he's a wrestler as well.
Yeah.
He was doing stand up and he showed me a documentary and he asked me my opinion. I saw him doing it and I said, God, that looks kind of like fun. So I looked up and I saw that there was a comedy clinic workshop in my area. And I thought, well, no one knows I'm a filmmaker or anything. Let me just go try this class out. And I went down there and I enjoyed it. I saw the, I saw the problems with the class almost immediately,
Well,
but
you're a
I took,
writer. I mean, you're a comedy writer by, just by nature too. So does
well,
does it come second
I did
nature?
it. And Priscilla, Priscilla Barnes recommended me to the Rebels of Comedy and they gave me a little spot. And now I've done the Ice House and the Sycamore Tavern and a bunch of places. But I still like the Rebels comedy at the Federal because
I love watching at the Federal. That's a
parking's
great venue.
easy. It's easy in, easy out. You don't have to drive down. I did a thing in the heart of Hollywood one time, and just to drive down there made me unfunny. I thought there's nothing to laugh
Well,
about by
was
the
it
time I park my
geographically
car.
undesirable, Fred?
Yes, I know. That's my old age. You know what I'm saying? Oh, beautiful restaurant. I don't know how far is it from the house. Yes, we'll
Is
do the
is that
Federal.
how
Yeah,
you
because
look
I
for the
know that's
women in your
close
life?
by.
Is that how you look for the women in your life too? That's how Angelinos, just Southern California people are. They're like, "What's your zip code?" Or "What is your area code?" Before we can
Yeah.
even date.
No, it's like, I joined the Elks and I finally found a quick way to get to the Elks because I said, I'm never going to be here now that I don't live in Studio City. Then I realized, oh, I found this way to get there. I can do it in 15 minutes. Okay, I'll become an Elk. But it was really all about, you're right. It's about how much driving do I have to do?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So like, are you? Are you still doing the stand up now? It's been a while since I've gone to see you at the Federal. Are you
Well,
still
I
doing
was
that?
moving, believe it or not, I was moving up to the headliner.
Ooh.
On my very next show, I was going to have twice as much time as I ever had before. And then all of a sudden, this pandemic thing sets in. And of course, there has been no comedy shows. I don't know when they'll start up again, but yeah, I would love to go back and do another one.
I hear that they're doing I guess the Zoom, everything's going on Zoom, or the video conference callings now, but it's totally different, right? When you have to have a
Yeah.
live audience, it's totally different.
You know what? It's like they talk about playing NFL football without anyone in the stands.
Yeah,
It's kind of like watching with the sound turned off. I don't know how you can do a stand up comedy show and you can't hear the audience react
totally.
because you don't know if you're bombing. I mean, every show you do is sort of a more refined first version of your material because if you do a joke 3 times and no one ever gets it, you might as well move on.
Yeah,
But if they really get it, you might want to move it up a little bit, But you've got to. It's like baking, and no one ever tastes the food. You don't know if it tastes like sawdust or if it tastes like a Twinkie. I mean, you just without that, you don't. How do you know? I mean, and you can't be your own audience, because that's a lot of filmmakers' problems is that they think everything they touch is gold.
totally.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's why
and
when they do on the Netflix specials or whatever specials for comedians, they tape it from the live audience because you feed off of that, right? It's like live
right.
theater.
Yeah, and you wait for the laugh to die down, and then you kind of go on, and you start understanding when to pause. I had a joke, I didn't even know it was a joke till everybody laughed, and now I wait. I wait
Yeah.
for the laugh because it was part of a sentence, but halfway through the sentence, everyone started laughing, so I started pausing. You know,
So kind of
and
like with stand-up comedy, are you writing and you're performing, but as you're performing in your head, you're writing more?
yeah, you do. You definitely. I look back over some of the materials and stuff in the other shows I've done, and I realized there are bits that I started out with that I've never gone back to. I just kind of kept taking what I thought was what was working, And it's funny because I do the show as Fred from West Virginia, so
Yeah.
I mean I do it in that sort of like my old accent,
You know what's cool
which I
too?
used to have before I went to radio. When I took radio and television broadcasting, half the course was radio disc jockey, which I never wanted to be, but I had to take it.
Yeah.
So it kind of drives the hillbilly out of you.
No, it was a totally
but,
different side because you never used the fact that you're a director or anything in your material, which is really cool.
yeah,
You're a totally
yeah.
different person when you're on that stand-up comedy stage than you are in your other entertainment life.
Well, and there's a lot of real life, in the comedy routines. I mean, I actually do have a moonshine still. I do I do run it. You know, there's a lot of my marriage with Kim Ray is in there too. She was showed up. She was actually at the last show I did, and she came up later and said she didn't care that I was making fun of her.
Well,
I
that was
said, okay,
awesome. I think I
okay,
remember
good.
her sitting at your main table the night that I came for the first time you appeared at the Federal, which is really cool. And
Yeah,
so it's like a lot of people came out to see you, which is awesome. And you didn't bomb, which is even more awesome.
yeah, no, that's a rough one.
So then, okay,
No.
so you're doing the stand-up comedy a bit now. You're still doing the directing, producing, screenwriting, but also you've taken on, which is like the hottest thing now, which is your podcast called, and I love it, One Take Territory on the Anchor platform. What
Yeah,
made you
I
do
need to
that?
update that now that I'm back and things have slowed down a little bit.
So did you start this when the pandemic started because you're kind of at home, you needed to do something creative?
No, I'd started it before that. I don't think I've done one since the pandemic started.
Okay.
Um, there was a movie. It came out. It was on MGM HD the other day, I guess, but it came out on Blu-ray called Moon and Scorpio with Britt Eklund.
Yeah.
And
I love
they
the
asked
stories you
me,
tell about her.
yeah, they asked me if I would sit down and do a video interview, and I said no, I didn't really want to do that. I said, but I would do a commentary track. I said the movie was so unusual, and the making of it was so bizarre. I said it would make one of the most interesting commentaries I've ever done. No, they didn't want to do that, so they just released the film. So I thought, well, this is screwed. I mean, because people are looking at this and going, well, this movie doesn't make any sense. It's confusing. And I said, yeah, I know why. So I thought, you know what? I said, I'm going to make a podcast, and in this podcast, I'm going to basically tell people everything that there was about Moon and Scorpio.
I love it.
So that's why I did the podcast, and then people started listening to it. So I thought, okay, because ever since I lost part use of my right hand, writing is very difficult because my fingers don't work anymore. My hand's paralyzed, and I'm now in a left-handed person's world, but I'm not left-handed.
I
So
know that's you say that in the podcast too, and I thought it was like genius the
yeah,
way you said it.
so it's easier for me to talk to people than it is for me to type something.
And you know
And
what I
people
love
say
about
when they say, "Oh, can we interview you? We'll send you some questions and you write the answers." I said,
oh
"Listen, I said I get paid to write.
yeah,
I said if you want to call me, I'll talk to you on the phone, but I'm not writing your interview for you."
voila, I called. I love though that you explained why it was called because it's a really cool title of a movie, Moon and Scorpio. But I love how you said or someone said, "Hey, this like do we ever figure out why we call it Moon and Scorpio?" So you have an actress say
Say it.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, she says the moon's in Scorpio, She says it's time of bad trouble. I mean, I haven't seen it in 20 years. I remember that line.
And it brings it all
I
together.
said somebody should at least say Moon and Scorpio. I said because I have no clue why is the movie called Moon and Scorpio.
That's genius. Genius. I mean, hiding in plain sight. Just have her say it. One line. It's all good.
Right. That movie was a huge success. It was not a good film. I didn't make it. It's not my film. I came in and took over.
Cleaner.
I took over, and but I don't know what my credit is on maybe a producer or something, but it was a very strange and bizarre film, and it wasn't a good film, but it made a ton of money. They said it was probably the title, Moon and Scorpio, and the
Yeah.
poster.
The poster looked really cool. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's got like a scorpion underwater under a sailboat.
So it's
I
like,
don't know what that's all about. People kept waiting for the giant scorpion to show up, I think.
I love that, like on your podcast, you reminisce a lot and you reminisce about these really cool stories. Some people I don't even know who they are, but you paint a picture of them to where I feel like, okay, I know who they are now, And if you go through your Facebook feed too, you like to reminisce a lot, I notice. And
my personal page isn't so much about my filmmaking career.
Yeah.
And my official Fred Olen Ray page, that's not about my career either. you might get the impression I'm not interested in my own career.
But it's like you have your career.
My official page is just stuff that strikes me as weird, newsworthy, or funny. And my other page is about my kids and whether I cooked the duck tonight.
I love that. And what new things that you're you're canning and preserves.
Well, you know what? No, see, here's the thing. I don't let I don't let anybody onto my personal page who's not actually a friend of mine.
Oh.
And my friends, they don't care about the films I'm making right now. They're either working on them or it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it's not, my personal page isn't aimed at any fans. It's aimed at my family members
doing,
and friends. Yeah.
I love seeing that. You're a good cook, by the way. Or, you try a lot of things. You're a good cook, and those boys are lucky. But I wonder about this. You love putting up these old advertisements, clippings, kind of like 50s and 60s ads. And the one thing that you do a lot of is spam. What is your fascination with spam?
I don't know, but I've got 2 cans staring me in the face right now.
Are you kidding? I kid
and
you
I've
not. You've got like
they have a little they have little things that look like Campbell soup cans, but they're actually safe. You can put money in them.
Yes.
I have a can of spam that is a secret safe to hide money and jewelry in.
I kid you not. These will pop up and I read it and I'm like, what is this deal with spam? Like,
well, no, I don't make any of those spam recipes. We will slice it up like scrapple or something and fry it.
Oh, scrapple.
And pan blacken it with some scrambled eggs for breakfast. Or sometimes we'll make a spam sandwich with some cheese.
Oh, yeah. No, spam. I grew up on spam.
That's it. We don't make spam
cakes,
cottage pie or any of that stuff, you see. I just find it fascinating how the links they went to try to convince you to buy spam.
Yeah.
They tried to show you the spam and lima bean casserole. My God.
Oh, my God.
What could that possibly be like?
I know you've been to Hawaii, but have you ever been to... Okay, do you know you go into a Hawaiian supermarket and the spam section is like the Doritos section or the Gatorade or whatever.
Monster you know what? They had a sign.
Crazy.
3 cans per family.
Are you serious?
They were rationing spam when I was in Hawaii last.
Oh, my God.
And I don't know why, because nothing weird was going on, but they have to import everything there.
Oh, okay, that's the deal then.
I believe it or not, me and Teo and Tommy Cook, we finished this mini series in Hawaii, and
Did you collect every kind of spam there was? There's just so many flavors.
Well, we rolled out of this sushi place, right? We'd run up a $300 bill. We rolled out the side door right into the Hawaiian Spam Festival.
Oh, shut up!
They had the main road on Waikiki, the one that runs in front of the Royal Hawaiian. I don't know if it's Kamehameha Highway or whatever it is, but it was closed. There were bands and Miss Spam, and there were, street vendors selling it in any kind of way. And we're like going, oh my God, we just stuffed ourselves. And here we are in the middle of the Spam Festival.
Spam Festival. Only you would find yourself in the middle of a Spam Festival. That's just
You know
awesome.
What? It was just my luck.
You've heard of Masterclass, right?
Is that the thing Ron Howard was
everyone's doing it
online?
Yeah, It's like basically the tops of everyone's profession. You go and you direct a class to show people how to do things. If ever anyone ever asked you to do a master class, or if you ever considered it, what would
Well, you know what? For years, I did a seminar at like certain horror film conventions. I would do a 2-hour talk on how to instantly improve your filmmaking. And it took 2 hours to do the seminar, and it was like instant results. You sit here and you listen for 2 hours. If you went back tonight and turned that camera on, you would be a better filmmaker. Wow. And I've thought about taking it and making it into a video and then selling it as a DVD. But I thought the first thing would happen is someone would rip it and it'd be all over YouTube, and you wouldn't make any money at all.
Right.
You'd have to put it on Amazon Prime where people could pay for it, but they can't own a physical copy that they could rip to YouTube.
Right.
I've thought, it's funny because, my education is 2 years in broadcast engineering.
Yeah.
And I said to somebody, that I thought, that I would maybe make a good teacher or a guest teacher, because I did that at Golden State University. I was a guest lecturer a couple times.
Yeah.
And the guy said, he goes, well, you can never teach at a college, Fred.
Why?
Which this guy was doing. This guy, in my opinion, was a card-carrying nitwit. Who made he was one of the worst PAs we ever saw. He was teaching at a college now. He said, well, you don't have the 4-year college degree that's required.
Ugh.
I said, so a table full of awards and a
That means
lifetime in
nothing,
film.
right?
No, you don't have the educational credentials, but you do. A guy who can't pass muster as a
Well,
PA on my set.
well, you know what they
You're you're
always
te-
say,
you're
right?
teaching you're
You,
teaching people how to make films.
you know what they
Okay.
always say, right? They always say sometimes the people who teach are the ones that were never able
Yeah.
to make it. You know.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry, but so many things from your podcast just like come to mind, and it just reminds me of that guy that came up to you and said, "Hey, I can do what you do."
Right. Right. Right.
What
I've been
what
watching
balls
you.
to do that though? I
I've
swear
been
to
watching
God.
you. I can do what you do. I say the same thing to people all the time because stand over there and don't talk to me. Get away from me and don't talk to me.
Stop
That's my
talking.
that's
Just
my
stop
answer.
talking. So okay, so that's what you're saying though, that if you were to teach anything, when it comes down to your career as a master class, it'd be the directing or production. I mean,
It'd probably be a little bit of both because for me, the board, the board and the day out of days, the strip board is the biggest challenge almost of making the film. I always say that I
that's
like to fight my
production, right?
battles in pre-production.
Yeah.
If you get your stuff together in pre-production, when the first day of shooting comes along, all you have to do is show up and do it. But most of your battles are fought in the pre-production stages.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that filmmakers or starting filmmakers, they're not going to know it unless they spend years behind the camera, which most of them won't. But there's a lot of stuff, that we do. There's one thing called a doctor no. If you ask for a doctor no, you're
What's
going to get a
that?
certain type of shot,
Yeah.
you ask for a split. If you ask for a split, there's a certain type of shot the DP is going to set up.
Right.
But if you don't know these things exist, you'll take the long way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are these
And
kind
maybe
of the
still
things?
not get there.
Are these kind of the things that you would have done, in your 2 hour class or whatever that you said if you went and took the class, you come out of it the next day and you would make a better production? These kind of tips that you would give people?
Yeah, because I don't tell people, how to direct an actor because that's the creative aspect of being a director.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What I talk about with people is, I'm talking about people who are just kind of starting out. There's a lot of people who have their own camera and they make movies with their friends in their houses, in their backyards, or whatever it is. And it's people like that where you're trying to tell them, look for this in a scene. Don't do this. If you see this, like I carry, as you know, 3 ficus trees with me on any show I'm on because a ficus tree is it's a fake plant, right? You can buy them at Target, but they'll hide any number of sins. Because there's nothing more distracting of a person coming through a room than having like a dark beige paint and there's a white switch plate with the light switches on it. Or down at the floor, you're looking at a cable coming out of a light electrical plug.
Yeah.
Or you're looking into a corner of a blank room. You can put a ficus in front of these things and it breaks it up, it adds color, creates detail, and for most people, it's invisible. They don't see the ficus. It's just part of the image. But I mean, there's a tremendous, and like people don't, you look at a scene and you go, okay, there's a little statuette on the table back there, but only the top of its head is in there. And you'll see me, I'll run in and I'll stack some books or I'll bring in a half apple box and I'll bring that little statue up until it's in the frame and the whole frame is pleasing.
Right.
And you try to tell people, you want to look inside the frame. Who cares what's outside? You dress to the frame, but that's all boring.
No, I mean,
Boring-
well, you know
boring
what? It's
nonsense.
boring until you're the person that you're like, I could have done this. It's like it's
There's
not.
nothing worse. There's nothing worse than looking at a light switch, a white one that's contrasting with the paint, or a unused electrical plug down by the floor. I mean, you don't want people looking around the room. It's like people who shoot a room and they leave their DVDs and Blu-rays or something.
Yeah.
I said, the first thing people start doing is they start reading the spines of your films. I mean, clean your house. I said, you ever look at a movie? Most movies, there are no television sets anywhere to be found unless it's going to play in the scene. Unless someone's going to look over and see that there's a newscast on. No movies have these giant, black, empty, eat up half the wall TVs.
That's true. You never think about
true.
This kind of stuff.
Yeah, because in real life, what is it? TV's on almost all the time.
Right.
People spend almost their whole evening in front of a television set.
You see,
But you
you
don't
don't
see it
know
in
this
movies.
stuff.
You don't see TVs in movies unless they're going to play. Unless they're going to play, and someone's going to come on there. You need to know. Everybody avoids showing a television set that's not turned on.
You never think about these things unless you shoot enough, you know, and then you start getting, you know what I'm saying? It's like these are things that if people just knew ahead of time, they'd be on the lookout for it. But a lot of people won't be on the lookout for these things until someone tells them they've already shot the production, and there you go. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and
another
clean your house.
distraction.
Even
Yeah.
though most people have papers laying all over the place, they don't in movies. They don't in films. Clean your house. Make your house look like a movie set.
Fred, you're just amazing. I kid you not. It's just like talking. Every time I talk to you, I find out more amazing things like that you do, or some more tips, you know, and just, I'm sure so many people tell us how we can find you. Tell us how they can learn more about you through the, so you have your social media pages. There's one
Well,
about your family. There's one.
I've got my personal Fred Ray page, so don't go there because I don't take friend requests.
That's
Go over
VIP.
to there's a Facebook page called the official Fred Olen Ray page, and that's a page where anybody can hang out as long as you're polite.
And
And
polite being the good
I
word.
am on Instagram. I haven't done much in a while.
But on your
But
podcast, you do say that people can get a hold of you if they have questions for you. Or your official Fred Olen Ray page.
yes, you can actually leave a message there, and I do answer them. I answer them with whatever frequency I see them. I'm not one of these people who's an over poster on Facebook. You know, you'll see.
Yeah.
You know, like during a shoot, you almost see nothing from me.
But every now and then you'll see some good spam posts that are pretty funny.
You know, some things you just repost so you will have them for forever.
So you remember them.
When you never know when I might need that spam and lima bean casserole recipe.
And then you can always go and check you out on One Take Territory, which I think is a really cool podcast.
Yeah, you can get that on iTunes and a bunch of other places. I am going to make a new one because everybody keeps asking me about it.
Yes.
But you know, here's the thing. You go to horror conventions, you see people signing their autographs and stuff. People are like, why aren't you at more of these things? And I said, listen, I still have a career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I still have a career. I'm the convention signing autographs for money is not, that's not my career at this point in my life.
It's usually after you're done.
I would never sign anything and charge somebody a penny. I said, you know, if you've bought the DVD, you've already done your part.
Yeah.
If you bought the poster for my movie, you've already done your part. You know, I've never charged anybody. You think Humphrey Bogart would have ever asked you for a penny to sign your autograph book?
Totally.
And I don't begrudge anybody who does do that because, you know, sometimes people luck out. They get one role in one iconic kind of film, and then the rest of the time is spent, you know, at the conventions.
You got bills to pay.
I don't begrudge them that. I think it's great, and it's a great way to meet some of these older actors who you would never meet.
Yeah.
But I'm not at that point yet. I still have a Blu-ray DVD company, as you know.
Yeah.
Which has in fact, there's a new Christine Nguyen collection coming out next week.
Are you kidding? Oh, man. I was going to be surprised.
Just came off the presses. As you know, we did a collection of you, and we did one of Beverly Lynn, and then one of Erica Jordan.
Yeah.
And then we took Dirty Blondes from Beyond and Invisible Centerfolds, and we're bringing them out as a double feature next week.
I'm excited.
So I'm still running the Blu-ray DVD company, and I'm still an active filmmaker. I'm still one of the most prolific filmmakers going. So you don't see me posting or hanging out on Facebook, and you don't see me hanging around horror conventions signing my stuff.
You know what, Fred? You're relevant real time. You know.
Yeah.
I just thought you're relevant real time, and you know, people just gotta. I mean, you do a lot of stuff for like Lifetime. You know, your stuff is everywhere. Oh, I never asked you about that.
People want to know. Yeah, they want to know how you go from Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers to Chevy Chase's Christmas in Vermont. You know.
Hey, you are a working film director, producer, and screenwriter, so it's not.
That's right. I do this for a living, and whatever film they want made this week, that's the one I want to make.
Well, I love it.
I want to make the film you want to buy.
There you go. I love what you just said, and I just, you know, thank you so much. I mean, I know your time, like you said, it's very valuable, and you have no idea how much I appreciate you and honored.
Oh, you know, I would do whatever you ask me to.
I love you. It's just a mutual appreciation.
you know, and you've done stuff for my boys.
Yeah, I love you guys.
And
It's
Max is in the Marine Corps right now. He's
I
in boot camp.
know. I can't believe that I remember him
Yeah,
coming to
It's
set.
just me and Tony at the house now. I said, do I really need 5 bedrooms anymore? I don't know. I only got me and Tony
You
and the
never know when
cat.
someone will stop in, It's like
Yeah, yeah. I got a place for people to fall down drunk.
I love that. It might be me one of these days, damn it.
You never know. It's a California king in one and a double in the other.
Fair
I said to
enough.
Max, I said, your bedroom's becoming a guest room, son. Your bedroom's. No, don't do that. I said, Max, you're never coming back.
No, don't do that.
Well, no, he comes out of boot camp. He's going to come out of boot camp and he goes to Pensacola for a year in aviation and helicopters, and then he starts his marine adventure. So
Oh my gosh.
I don't plan to see him hanging around here much longer.
Oh my God, what a proud poppy you are. But I have to tell you, it's like when I saw that post on Facebook, I was like, wow, that was out of the blue. Like,
well,
seriously.
You know what? He didn't even tell me. He kept it from me for a while.
Yeah.
And then he kind of dropped it on me because I was the last thing I would have expected. And then, of course, the whole stuff, kids can back out at any time. So I said, I'm not going to say anything to anybody.
How were you feeling, though, honestly?
Until he's gone.
Yeah. Hmm? How were you feeling, honestly, though? There had to have been some like, oh
I
my God.
I was upset because I felt like he could have done what he wanted in the Air Force or the Navy. I said, the Marines is very tough. It's very tough.
Yeah.
And they're one of the more endangered species of military. But he wouldn't hear of it. He wouldn't have anything less than that. Now, of course, I get letters from him every day telling me how horrible it is, how miserable he is. I said, well, just hang in there, son, this too, I actually said, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. Oh my God. Why is it all the wise men in my life always say that this too shall pass?
Well, it's terrible now, but there will be an end to it, just like the movies. I always said it's kind of like making a movie. You look at it and you go, this is daunting. I'm dreading this. That next Thursday, I hate next Thursday. But, once that train starts moving,
yeah,
the next thing you know, you're staring at the finish line and you're going, oh man, one more day to go. I mean, it's just been like that. And that's the way boot camp is. It seems miserable and horrible and you don't know how you make it. And then the next thing you know, you're staring at graduation day.
Oh man, and it's gonna come faster because I can't believe it was like just yesterday that he posted and he's already in it, and it's already like, ugh.
Yeah, no, it's tough stuff. But hopefully by then this virus thing will clear up. We can all go down to San Diego and see him graduate on August 28th.
Oh my gosh!
So I feel like there's a good chance.
So
chance. I said I can't imagine why that they can't let the parents come in and see this. This would be. It would be sad. I mean, but obviously, I'll rock and roll.
Yeah.
And they better not cut the NFL this year. Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski at the Buccaneers.
Oh my God, I know, right? That's going to be sick. I mean, that's just another podcast right there for me.
I know. I've already bought the Tom Brady Buccaneers mug. I'm giving them out to people. Here's a coffee mug. Got Tom Brady dressed up as the old Bucco Bruce logo.
I love it. The GOAT in Tampa Bay.
And they're going to play Oakland in Vegas, the Raiders in Vegas. I said,
that new stadium.
If they'll let us in, man, I'm going to be there.
I might be there too. I love Vegas and I love the Raiders. And I was hoping they'd come to LA, but I had a feeling they wouldn't. So.
Yeah. I'm going to go there for the Bucs game if they're letting people in.
Maybe we should go together, Fred.
Yeah. Okay, baby.
I love you to death. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for asking me.
All right. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, babe.
All right. Take care, love. All right.
Bye-bye.
Good night.